numbers, but what will happen out on the field with 13 aside? Newcastle showing no semi-final nerve last week. First an earthquake, now the Dragons. Well, Newcastle weathered the earthquake. Can they weather the Dragons? That earthquake bound together the Newcastle community, and this side, the Knights, have given them plenty to cheer about. Knights dynamite. But it really is an inspiration, the one city teams. Brisbane, of course, in a similar boat to Illawarra and Newcastle. It's a bit harder for the Brisbane fans to make the trip down from Brisbane. They'll be here tomorrow when they meet Illawarra. And here come the St George Dragons, led out by their skipper, Michael Beattie. They want to wipe away memories of last week's performance and show the true St George today. Wayne Collins will be a very important figure at dummy half today. Jeff Hardy and Noel Goldthorpe in the lineup. Ricky Walford also wants to have a better game than last week. At fullback is Michael Potter. On one wing, Ricky Walford. Mark Coyne and Michael Beattie in the centre. Ian Herron on the other wing. Peter Coyne is the 5'8". Noel Goldthorpe comes in at halfback for Ivan Henjak. At lock forward, Jeff Hardy in there for Brad Mackay. Scott Goulet and Dave Barnhill in the second row. Neil Tierney, Wayne Collins, and Tony Priddle the front row. The coach is Brian Smith. The determination on the face of Michael Hagan. And an awesome roar goes up. Paul Harrigan undaunted by the challenge at hand. Tremendous reception for Newcastle. It's overwhelming, the support from their home crowd. Brad Godden at fullback, Robbie O'Davis on the right wing, Adrian Brunker and John Schuster in the centre, Tony Herman on the left wing, Michael Hagan at 5'8", Matthew Rodwell in great form at halfback, Mark Landval at lock forward, David Mullane and David Boyd in the second row. An unchanged lineup, Paul Harrigan, Robbie McCormack and Mark Sargent in the front row, and the coach is David Waite. Robbie McCormack, one of the local juniors, in tremendous form, played so well all season, made the New South Wales Origin team. Robbie O'Davis scored 2 tries last weekend. Very confident player, Paul Harrigan, the chief. Hasn't he lived up to that nickname this season? The ball falling off the mound in the breeze. The referee is Graham Annesley, and Peter Coyne gets the elimination semi underway. Sudden death for the loser. Robbie McCormack brings it down, and immediately St George down there very quickly to pin him only 10 metres out from his own goal line. Quick work by St George in the chase. Now it's Tony Herman. Well, Arthur, the battle of the two front rows should be awesome.
It'll certainly be a great battle up front there. St George rely on the momentum created by 2 of their big men, Turney and Priddle. It'll be interesting to see whether Newcastle can shut these men down today.
Well, we've got a sunny day, but Johnny Peard, some wind down there.
Yeah, as usual, Warren, in this stadium, the wind swirling all over the place, but I would say at the moment it's coming from the south. But I've only got one concern with all these Newcastle people here. Who's minding the town?
The streets could be deserted up there today. And I'm sure they are, because everybody who's not here will be watching television. Mark Coyne gets the pass back to Peter Coyne. On to Goulet. St George with early ball movement on the halfway line. St George have to really lift the tempo of last week's effort. They're a little lacklustre, and it's no place to be anything less than 100% in semi-final football. Goldthorpe cuts out one to Tierney. Gets it to Priddle standing wide. So already we see the 2 big front rowers, 2 wide of the ruck on the blind side.
And that was a good play by St George. They stacked the blind side. Marley Goldthorpe figuring prominently in the early clashes.
Big hit from Sargent on Coyne. Back it goes to Collins. Tierney intercepted the pass virtually. Still going is Neil Tierney. This has been a good start by the Dragons.
Yeah, we've seen more ball movement from the Dragons than we did in probably 30 minutes last week.
Goldthorpe puts it up on the last tackle. Pressure here, Herman waiting underneath it. Anyone's ball. Newcastle have got it. They've forced it in the in-goal area. But risky play, allowing that kick to bounce. It was a pretty good bomb by Goldthorpe.
Certainly a good bomb by Goldthorpe. And if we remember back to last week, you see them contesting the ball. Surprised at Godden that he didn't take that ball on. But a much better option by St George last week. They came up with some awful options on the fifth play.
Rodwell drops out. Down to Potter. St George camped in Newcastle territory early in the game, and Dave Barnhill gets up some speed. McCormack lifts him to get him off his feet with Hagan. Just short of the 22. Hardy, Jeff Hardy in a dummy half. And Collins calls Mark Coyne to go into dummy half for the next play. Mark Coyne going himself. Newcastle inside the 5, in close to the ruck. Penalty to St George.
Yes.
Easy kick coming up for Ian Heron.
We see a quick play the ball. We see one of the, I think it was Paul Harrigan jumping the gun there, first off the ruck.
Ivan Henjak on the bench this week.
There's a tremendous opening spell by the St George Dragons, John.
Yeah, well, what a difference a week makes. Obviously, they learned a lot from last week. We were saying last week they didn't string enough passes together. It's easy to say, but this week they've started off in the right direction.
Brian Smith up in the stand. Early days, very intent on the first few minutes of this game. Ian Heron to shoot for goal just 15 metres out. The Newcastle crowd stamping in the stands, trying to put Heron off. A 74% success rate for Ian Heron. Just 15 metres out from the posts, virtually in front. And he drives it through. Well, there are some St George fans here because they roar, and St George lead 2-0 after 5 minutes of play. Confidence booster here for Ian Heron from right in front. He hit it solidly. Just a little deviation in direction, though. Ian Heron, the former Newcastle player, played with the Knights last year, originally from the Dragons and back with them again in '92. And the ball rolls off the mound for John Schuster. Schuster with the start of play once more. And Mick Potter underneath it. Gives it to Barnhill, a very flat pass. In the early games, all knockout matches, Brisbane defeated South 28-8 in the under-21s, and reserve grader was a win to the Tigers. Balmain beating Penrith 18-4.
It's a change from last week also, John, that in the early clashes, Newcastle had the ball early, but 5 minutes elapsed and Newcastle haven't had a field of the football.
No, they've taken the initiative, Saints, and Collins in there at dummy half. I think Henjak out of the side will give Nolly Goldthorpe a chance to use a lot of his skills. He's a good player, Goldthorpe.
Here's Goldthorpe now, moves it wide to Coyne. The kick as Glanville was coming through. A good kick by Peter Coyne. There's no one back. Herman chasing back now. The kick stays in the field of play. What a great kick from Peter Coyne, and the Dragons are there in numbers and pummel him to ground.
It was certainly a good kick and chase, I thought, but the better option might have been to pass the ball. But we see a penalty going against Michael Beattie for not being square on in the marker position.
And that's a let-off after the great chase to make the tackle after the kick. Beattie concedes the penalty. Did he mark up directly in front? As Herman was trying to get to his feet. Well, Herman virtually walked off the mark. Beattie certainly wasn't in front of him.
No, Beattie wasn't directly in front, and that's what the rule states.
But whether or not Herman walked off the mark to cause it to happen is debatable. Here's Harrigan on the halfway.
And that's a high shot by Beattie as referee Graham Annesley comes over and stands over the ruck.
Now Sargent. And it looked like a forearm.
Yes.
Took Priddle down. McCormack. Glanville. Around his ankles is Goldthorpe.
That was a quick play the ball by Glanville.
David Boyd charging ahead. They're only 32 metres out now, the Knights. Hagan goes himself and he beats the tackle. Michael Hagan goes straight through. He beat the tackle of Neil Tierney. Fifth tackle. 20 metres out. The kick from Rodwell. Awkward one, and Ricky Walford takes it on the full in the in-goal area. It's a 22 tap.
It was a good decision by Graham Annesley. That was a tough one to call. I thought that he might have been in the field of play.
It was a good decision by the ref. And Walford races up to the 22 to take the tap.
I think Newcastle in that first set of 6 have shown that they might try and expose St George down the edges.
Well, it was a surprising miss by Neil Tierney on Michael Hagan. He appeared to have him covered. Here's Priddle up the middle this time. Early in the game, we've seen Priddle and Tierney too wide of the ruck, particularly on the blind. Here's Jeff Hardy. He's the link man. He appears to have been given the role, one wide of the ruck on the blind side. Collins, Goldthorpe, putting it in behind Tony Herman. They don't want to kick to Robbie O'Davis by the look of it. And he finds touch just inside the quarter line.
Here's the change of tactics by Saints with Nolly Goldthorpe on the side. He adds another dimension to their kicking game. We see Nolly Goldthorpe one off the ruck, just popping that ball in behind.
Wally Fullerton-Smith, one of the 10 or so reserves on the bench for both teams, in fact. Here's Herman in from the blind side scrum win. Brunker in there as a decoy, goes to Schuster. And immediately the chant goes up from the crowd. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Glanville, a little flat-footed, but then he accelerated. Fine tackle, though, from Wayne Collins in first with Jeff Hardy. McCormack darts away to Hagan. Peter Coyne up quickly on top of him. Newcastle hitting it up in close. Now Mullane has his arms quickly grabbed. Beattie and Hardy. Collins giving chase on Rodwell, but he gets his kick away. Potter gets away from Schuster. A grabbing tackle by Schuster. Not very sharp, though.
Certainly was. Not a very good chasing team by the Newcastle Knights. They'll have to tighten up in that area.
Well, we can safely say that after 10 minutes of play, both these teams are well and truly revved up. Last week, St George were certainly a peg below their best. Newcastle haven't quite started at the same level, but they are playing solidly. St George are the big improvers. Mark Coyne caught just inside the Newcastle half. Ian Heron goes across field. Brought it in some 15 metres towards centre field. It's the last tackle, and it'll be a penalty to St George against Sargent. McCormack was also in there, interfering in the play of the ball, trying to slow the play the ball down.
Now, we have a look. Last week, I thought that Newcastle got away with a little bit in the play of the ball. But on this occasion, Robbie McCormack pushing down here. Heron in the tackle.
And Heron is going to shoot for goal. This is 38 metres out, right in centre field. These two teams have met 5 times since Newcastle came into the competition. St George have won 3, Newcastle have won 2. David Waite with Laurie Nichols behind him. That is Laurie, yes, but David Waite has had a very successful season, and Robert Fitch alongside him. Heron, a very deliberate kicker, takes his time. In fact, takes too much time for my liking and quite a few other people.
Shades of Alan McKean.
And Paul Eastwood from Great Britain. And the ball is rolled off the mound, so now the referee calls time off. St George with the better attacking record of these two teams. Newcastle the better defence. During the season, St George conceded 283 points. Newcastle 267. Both very good defensive efforts. And you can see plenty of red in the crowd, but the blue marks the Newcastle supporters as well. If it's white and red, it means it's St George. Ian Heron from 36 metres out, right in front of the sticks. And this kick going close, but not close enough, just wavering away. He didn't really have his kicking boots on last week. That gives him 1 from 2, and St George lead 2-0.
It's not a very good kick. If we have a look at the kick here, he pulled it to the left. Exactly the same as the first kick, except that he was a little bit closer to the goal.
The dropout from Matthew Rodwell gets good distance down into the St George quarter. Ricky Walford. And the kicker makes the tackle. Strong tackle from Rodwell. Hardy at dummy half to Barnhill. Runs into the arms of David Boyd. Goulet. Last week, Scott Goulet led the hit-ups for St George, but failed to break the line. Goldthorpe, the cutout pass, goes to Coyne. He looks for Heron. It's on the ground in the field of play. Heron luckily gets back, but he's put a foot into touch.
Yes, Heron dived on that ball, and as he dived, he had a foot over the goal line, over the touch.
We saw a couple of rush passes by Mark Coyne last week that didn't find the winger. And there's Heron, foot in touch as he dived on it.
He actually came from outside the field of play.
Hagan. Wrapped up by his opposite number.
And already, John, we've seen St George attack down that short blind on the left-hand side.
Yeah, I think it's a far better alternative, Arthur, than go the short side against Newcastle than to try and get round the long side. I think you take too much risk. And when you've got good fringe ruck runners like Goulet and perhaps a centre or Mick Potter sneaking down there, I think they're good tactics.
Sargent. Last week we saw Ivan Henja playing a dummy half as often as not, and they didn't really play a half-back in the normal sense of the word, St George. Now here's Hagan kicking on the last, dribbling it through to Potter, who covers it up well. Very solid at the back is Mick Potter, and that's a pretty good tackle by Glanville. Knocked his ankles.
Well, last week against Western Suburbs, Newcastle set up to run the ball in the last, and also had the option of kicking. They had the same setup that time, but Mick Potter had that well covered.
Walford, halfway through the tackle, stepped away from Sargent, but not McCormack, who pulls him back to ground. Tierney.
And that's just one of the little things that Newcastle get away with, just slowing that play the ball down.
John, what do you make of Brian Smith's selection of Jeff Hardy at lock rather than Brad Mackay?
Well, I think coaches know the form of their players better than anyone. They might have to go along with it on what we saw last week. Brad Mackay be a very, very handy player on the bench, but you know, I think Hardy's got a bit more size than Mackay, and perhaps that's why they're using him early.
And a great kick by Peter Coyne. Repeats the dose for Tony Herman. They drive him to ground. Now, will Mick Beattie stay in front this time? He does. Robbie O'Davis runs into Goulet. This is where St George want Newcastle. 10 metres out from their own posts. Glanville ducks under the tackle of Priddle.
Warren, he always goes forward, that fellow. He's a wonderful ball runner.
Now a good run by Mullane. Glanville there. Boyd. Driven sideways.
Surprisingly enough, St George's defence has been very good.
Mark Coyne getting hold of Boyd on the last. Now the kick away from Potter. Well, both fullbacks are going to be busy, or at least Mick Potter is. At the other end is Tony Herman, who's been busier than Brad Godden.
Well, both sides are very patient sides, and they do rely on playing field position with their kickers. This is going to be an arm wrestle for a long time.
Barnhill took off a little early that time, almost overran it.
St George well equipped with Michael Potter because he's got a lot of experience, and one of his greatest attributes is his anticipation. Rarely out of position. And there's Goulet on the fringe of the ruck. Good tactics.
Robbie McCormack is everywhere in defence. Penalty to St George.
And this is a tactic. This is a kick goes against Michael Hagan. Gurley gets up, but Michael Hagan is straddling him. Just have a look at this. Even though it looks as though he doesn't get away, but just one of those slow-down tactics that Newcastle employ.
3-1 the penalties to St George. The Dragons leading 2-0 after 16 minutes. Collins to take the tap. The big guns in centre field. Barnhill gets it. Collins comes across to dummy half. Goldthorpe. Tierney.
John, he's a guy that, given a little bit of latitude, could cause Newcastle a lot of strife later on.
Yeah, he just did a bit of damage then. They didn't put him on the ground, Arthur. That creates a quick play, the ball, and you're able to move it wide.
This time it's the big men, the big front row of Piddle down the right-hand wing.
This is a bit like the St George we know of, using the bigger fellas out wide.
Potter. There's been plenty of talk about Newcastle's compact defensive line. Well, St George are attempting to go around it, but they're using the big men on the fringes of that defensive line. Goldthorpe back to Heron.
Newcastle calling for a shepherd.
Fifth tackle. 30 metres out. It's Coyne. He runs it. Gives a long pass to Beattie. Back on the inside is Goulet. But that is the last. That's a handover. Pulled it in beautifully, Scott Goulet. But in the end result, I suppose they should have put the kick ahead.
Yes, St George running the ball in the last tackle. Beautiful pass back inside Goulet. But Goulet held what was a very difficult pass.
And now a penalty against St George, trying to pull the ball loose.
With a wingspan like that, you don't drop too many.
Newcastle across the halfway line.
I'm a little bit surprised last week, John, the same thing's happening today, that they had a little bit of luck early there on the last tackle, putting up the high ball, and I'm surprised that they didn't put the high ball up again.
Well, with that wind swirling around, Arthur, it's a very good tactic, particularly when your rucks are out and you're around centre field there at about 30, 40, 50 out.
Here come the Knights. Great run by Boyd, tearing in there. In fact, it was Mullane. Now it's Hagan. He gets it away to Boyd. Swings it back inside to McCormack. Glanville. Oh, Beattie could have taken an intercept. Walford's away. Ricky Walford still going. Good run by Ricky Walford.
A little bit fortunate there. Beattie took a man without the ball, but
it was Sargent. He went straight for him. Didn't worry about the ball, which eluded both of them. Potter with numbers, St George. Hardy is through. Still support there in Priddle, but Hardy held onto it. Didn't want to risk a forward pass. Newcastle a little at 6s and 7s now. Peter Coyne switches it to Barnhill. Trying to keep the pass alive. His hands were free, but not his arms.
Newcastle well inside the 5 metres.
Coyne to Barnhill. Loops it out to Potter. Sargent's there.
You wouldn't think this is the same team from last week. They're really moving the ball around. The Newcastle defence is uncomfortable as they go wide here.
Mark Coyne to Heron. It's the last tackle. Goulet drops it. On the last, they were trying to throw it around, and Dave Davis is belted.
Yeah, great ball movement by St George, but you have to give Newcastle a rap for their defence.
Well, Mark Coyne is the tackler. He made a good tackle here, but O'Davis has reacted, and the penalty should go to St George. Coyne didn't release him all that quickly after driving him back here, but O'Davis throws a punch, and I doubt the referee will excuse him for it. Well, we couldn't quite see the incident. Here's Mark Coyne tackling O'Davis, gripping onto him, and O'Davis didn't like it and gave him a little uppercut. Or was it a right cross?
Well, it was certainly, whatever it was lucky that it was
taken his hooter out.
Obviously, he hasn't missed him. I thought that might have missed, but...
I thought it was like in the movies.
Yes, it looked like that. A couple of stuntmen out there.
O'Davis Impetuous action could cost his team 2 points.
Be interested to see whether Graham Ensley puts him on report for that indiscretion.
The penalty goes to St George. Hagan continues the argument, and the referee tells him to go away. No doubt that there was some sort of provocation from Mark Coyne, but really O'Davis let fly and was always going to be found guilty.
That's a blood bin, Warren.
Mark Coyne with blood streaming from the nose. Robbie O'Davis will regret that. And you can see that his hand is actually bleeding. So I wonder what caused that, or was that from the punch?
It was the right. It is the right hand. So, but even on a situation like that, Warren, I'm surprised that referee Annesley didn't put Davis on report.
Brad Mackay's the new player in 13.
Ian Heron didn't hit his last kick very well. The wind swirling around. Heron kicked one from right in front. He missed one from further out in centre field. This is probably the most difficult of them all. Only 12 metres in from touch. And not good enough to kick. Again to the left. His radar's out. Score remains St George 2, Newcastle 0. Another look at the punch here from Robbie O'Davis. A little bit going in from Mark Coyne underneath. And O'Davis resenting it. Drop out from Rodwell. A wobbly one this time. Came off the edge of his right boot. Barnhill.
On that occasion, almost looked as though Mark Coyne was doing a little bit of homework himself.
St George in very good formation on 6 tackle plays, but they've had 2 handovers. The coach wouldn't be all that pleased with that they've forfeited balls instead of giving their team a chance with perhaps a kick on the last.
Good burst from Brad Mackay, the new man. Now Collins with the offload to Goulet. Most of the play in Newcastle territory. That pass was forward from Goldthorpe to Barnhill. I think Dave Barnhill's got to look at his positional play. This is the 3rd time that he has overrun a pass or nearly overrun it.
Yeah, well, he could have missed him there and picked him up out wide, picked the second man up.
Barnhill is taking off too early.
Still have to blame Noel Goldthorpe. He had the ball in his hands.
Hagan. They held off him and he went through. Jeff Hardy got to him. Godden. Haven't seen it. Oh, Barnhill came in hard. That looked high. Certainly looked as if it was intended to lop his head off.
They were 2 perfectly good handles by Brad Godden.
Now it's Mullane. Hagan. Glanville. He beats the tackle again. That time it was Goldthorpe left behind. Glanville repeatedly beating tackles. Last tackle, the kick ahead by Boyd. Rodwell gets it back. Referee says it was knocked on. Referee Annesley finding a knock on here as it was put ahead. And there it was, just coming off Schuster's hand. Referee on the spot to say it went forward.
And he's pulling out David Barnhill for that a high tackle on Godden.
Let's just see how high it was. There's Barnhill. Whoa, that was a headhunter. He's very lucky that didn't collect, because if it had, it should have been set off.
It was really nearly almost too high to be a headhunter.
It was inexcusable from Barnhill, and we may hear more of that. Mackay kicking back in the tackle. Hardy takes on Mullane. Boyd there to help out. Tierney. Well tackled, ball and all by Sargent. Goldthorpe. The little dummy, and they didn't fall for it. Glanville hitting hard with Boyd. Just short of halfway. St George not making as much ground in this set of 6. Coyne's kick is good, though. Back to the goal line it bounces. Davis. Oh, great tackle, Brad Mackay. He really drove in hard. No. Legs pushing in behind the shoulder.
St George have got a very good kicking game and a good chasing team going at the moment. Peter Coyne's certainly drilling those kicks.
Herman.
We see the top tacklers for both sides. Scott Gurley leading the way there with 11. Just some Wayne Collins at 10. And Michael Beattie doing a fair bit of work out in the centres. Michael Hagan leading the way with 12 for Newcastle, indicating that a lot of the traffic is going wide towards Newcastle.
The 2 Newcastle front rowers hitting it up. Sargent the more effective that time on the last. McCormack kicks. And it's a good-looking kick too. Back goes Potter. Here come the Knights. Potter wrapped up by 3 of them. Davis makes the tackle. St George now, only 15 out from their own line. It's Heron, who's heading across field a lot today. That may be instructions. Maybe Brian Smith wants St George to get it to the centre of the field and then hit wide either side.
That's a much better run from Ricky Walford.
Jeff Hardy, hit by Mullane, drives him across field. Tierney runs into Rodwell. Can't shrug off the tackle. Again, it's Boyd in to help out. Boyd making plenty of tackles. 5th tackle. Coyne with a kick. It's deep behind Herman once more. They have not kicked once to the far left-hand side to really worry Davis. Herman knocked over by Mackay. The ball's loose. Brad Mackay forces the error. St George 12 metres out. Godden tries to rake it back. Didn't make contact. Goulet. Heron tries to push off Schuster. Power inside the ball intercepted. Davis comes away with it. Both teams making errors.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing for St George's point of view, but Heron had no option but to throw the ball back infield.
Harrigan. St George leading 2-0, 12 minutes till half-time.
They'll be ruining that one. They had a clear go with 6 inside the Newcastle quarter. They won't get that opportunity too often.
No, they did. They had good field position, as you said. And they had Newcastle at 6 and 7, but they went for it and they paid the penalty.
Rodwell tries to turn St George around. Potter takes it on the burst. Brunker with a good tackle, and Hagan. Mark Coyne has had stitches put in the nose, I'm told. The pass has gone forward, or at least the attempted catch has gone forward. Newcastle have got it. Now Boyd. Up to the quarter line. So now St George make the same error as Newcastle early in the tackle count. Will the Knights make more of it? Mullane. Just inside the quarter. McCormack. Rodwell. Holds it up for Glanville. McCormack again. Worrying run for the St George defence, and they're up inside the 5. Penalty goes to Newcastle, right in front of the post.
Yeah, he's come over and he's pinched David Bartle and Jeff Hardy for creeping up inside the 5 metres, but a great run by McCormack. He took advantage.
He ran from dummy half a couple of times, Robbie McCormack. Turning St George around. 4-3 the penalties now. Jeff Hardy conceding the penalty.
That was a costly mistake by Ricky Walford. He gave Michael Beattie a poor pass on the first tackle.
Here's the error by St George. Walford's short, sharp pass to Beattie. Put the pressure on him. He couldn't handle it. Good work by Newcastle, chasing through there.
Warren, the referee's talking to both the captains at the moment. He wants them further apart. We've already had, 7 penalties. And we only had about 8 or 9 in last week's game altogether. So he's certainly given the captains a warning that he wants the teams a little more apart. Otherwise, he's just going to blow up penalties all day.
Well, the other result is sending someone to the sin bin, John.
Yeah, well, maybe that went in the warning as well.
John Schuster, a former All Black, 73% success rate with the boot. And he raises the flags and levels the scores at 2-all, 9 minutes before half-time. One penalty goal apiece. No tries on the board. A sea of red and blue. The Newcastle fans with the faces painted, the streamers flying. One brave St George flag amongst them. Coyne gives it some air. May allow it to bounce. Indecision between Brunker and Herman as to who should go for it on the full. Brunker from dummy half. Glanville gets 10 metres upfield. In the one meeting between these two teams this year, Newcastle defeated St George 23-12, and that match was at Cogra. David Boyd.
The Knights are starting to get a roll on now, John. They're getting a little more possession.
Yeah, they haven't been in a position to work that second phase play of theirs that's created so much problems. I thought they'll probably stick a few of those in here today, particularly down those sides where they can expose the St George wingers.
Confident work by Walford to pluck that kick out of the air. Now it's Potter playing it back. Tierney. St George just losing that pattern that they started the game with. We haven't seen Tierney and Priddle standing wide on the blind side in the last couple of minutes. Here's Priddle wide. The Newcastle defence holds. Glanville in there for the tackle. Now it's Mackay.
Good tackle by Glanville. Priddle's a fairly big lad. He wrapped him up, one out.
An equally good tackle by Mullane, low that time. Now it's Goulet wide. Finds some space, the risky pass, kept alive by Goldthorpe, but that pass went forward. Clumsy football by St George, panicking on the last.
Yeah, once again, I question the options on the last tackle. They once again had good field position. We see Goulet. That ball was knocked down, plated by Newcastle. That could have quite easily been 6 more.
It's 3 times turnover, Arthur, for the St George side.
It's strange, isn't it? Once again, I go back to the first time they put the bomb up on the last tackle, and they haven't continued with that pattern.
They can see the open spaces out wide on the last tackle, and they're being tempted to run for it. Now McCormack. One thing you've got to say about Newcastle, they're a very composed side. First appearance in a final series. A few young guys out there, but they weathered the early storm from St George. They came through last week's game with flying colours. They don't get rattled, do they?
No, they are a very composed side.
Here's Hagan. Last tackle. Rodwell from behind. Now Harrigan. Back to Godden. He thinks about the kick. Gives it to Mullane. Pass back on the ground. Godden just getting back to his feet. Picks it up. Still going. Flings it back. Intercepted by Beattie. Looked like a voluntary tackle.
That's a voluntary tackle.
Well, what Michael Beattie was doing, I don't know, unless he thought that he was in danger of going near the touchline, but he just dived on the ground. That's a voluntary tackle.
Almost looked like Clark Kent.
Maybe he simply tripped.
I thought the phone box was closed.
St George, 30 metres out from their own line. The intercept by Beattie was needed. Newcastle were keeping it alive beautifully. Tierney flicks it out the back, took an odds to it and comes away with it. Heron. Risky pass, but it worked. In the end, it looked as if more would come of it. They had an overlap.
They're still trying to find the space out wide. St George, I think they'd be better served taking Newcastle on up the middle with support.
Herman with a good run, returning the kick well. Brunker.
There we see the error count, a few more missed tackles by St George, but on the whole, it's a pretty good mistake rate.
Mullane, taken low by Mackay. Sargent finds room up the middle again. Not for the first time in the game. Sargent carving his way in behind the play the ball area.
Yeah, poor defence, pivot defence there by Jeff Hardy.
Rodwell, the grubber kick. Bounces nicely for Potter. Potter tries to step inside Rodwell, but he latches onto him with Brunker.
With only 4 minutes to go, one wonders whether Brian Smith would be thinking about making changes.
2 points all.
Well, Matthew Elliott's been warming up on the sideline for quite some time. I think he wants to get him on before the break.
Walford holding his hamstring.
There's a couple of St George forwards with their heads down out there.
Matthew Elliott on the sideline. Wayne Collins plays it. Walford is still down. Barnhill. Walford seems to be okay. Tierney. Midway between their own quarter and halfway, St George, as it goes to Goldthorpe. A deep kick over the top of Godden. May go too far. Well, that ball looked as if it would have stopped near the goal line, but just kept rolling.
Just a little bit too much weight. A bit unfortunate, Noel Goldthorpe, with that kick. It's looked a tremendous kick, but it just gets a little bit of momentum as it gets up towards the in-goal area. It just rolls in on in.
Harrigan. Well, who do you think's won the kicking duel so far? Matthew Rodwell or Peter Coyne and Noel Goldthorpe?
Well, I'm a little bit disappointed, probably more so in St George's fifth tackle options.
Their deep kicking's been okay.
Their deep kicking has been great, but I would have thought that maybe they would have persevered with the high ball.
I think they've had more opportunity to use the kick than Newcastle had.
Here's O'Davis.
As Newcastle get more possession, they seem to be growing another leg.
St George with a very compact defensive line. Ian Heron barely on the other side of centre field. Now he goes wider and calls for help. Newcastle running it on the last. Rodwell with the kick. Schuster coming through on Potter.
He's a godsend for St George. Potter. Great anticipation. That was a good kick. And Mick Potter was there first. He was entitled to be there a little later than that. It was right down the sideline.
He must give St George a lot of confidence every time there's a kick through. Now Heron is injured. The crowd booing, claiming that he's trying to slow it down. And maybe he was, because he walks away.
They seem to have lost a little bit since Mark Coyne has gone off, John.
Yeah, I think Newcastle got a little bit more possession, Arthur.
That has happened too, but Mark Coyne gives them a little bit more speed in attack. A few more other options.
Certainly, they are working the ball right. I tend to agree with that, because I think you can get Newcastle use up a bit of petrol. Here's a kick out in the full. That's a costly error by, I think it was the hooker.
Yeah, Wayne Collins, awful kick, but with a minute to go, here's a chance for Newcastle.
And another mistake on the last tackle by St George. It could have totally changed the face of this first half if their last tackle plays had been more successful. Not that they had to score off them, but they would have kept the pressure on Newcastle. The Knights now.
They may even settle for one here, Arthur.
Yes. One could win them the game, John, the way the game is going.
McCormack, hurt, 15 metres out. Rodwell to Boyd, back to Hagan. Good offloading by Boyd. He's had the wind knocked out of him. Only seconds remaining, 20 seconds to go. Glanville slips a pass away. Must have nearly been called held. Sargent. Back it goes to Hagan. Danger here now. Harrigan. Oh, Walford came off his wing and he's knocked the momentum out of it. May have saved the day. Last tackle. Hagan puts it high. Here's pressure for Peter Coyne. Schuster coming through. A ride deflection too late as the half-time siren sounds. Referee Annesley didn't hear the siren, asking the in-goal judge whether it came off Schuster. The bomb was certainly dangerous, and Schuster very nearly got there. He certainly beat St George to it. So a stirring first half of football. Newcastle recovering from an early St George barrage, and at half-time, it's 2 points all.
You're watching the sudden death minors semi-final of the 1992 Premiership race, coming to you across Australia from the Sydney Football Stadium. on ABC Sport, your national network.
Very tough first half of football. The scrum's going to Newcastle 3-1, none against the feed. The penalties 4-3 to St George. Overall errors 19 by St George to Newcastle's 9. Quite a few missed tackles in that St George performance and a couple of bad passes. Overall defence, 126 tackles by the Dragons, 114 by the Knights. The metres gained, pretty even, 879 to St George, who are on top early, not far behind Newcastle. And in possession, 20 minutes apiece. And hello to everyone right around the country. I know you're watching out there in the East Kimberleys in Western Australia, and quite a few grand finals being decided right around the country as well. Congratulations to grand final winners in New South Wales country, Wests in Newcastle, Wee Waa, Wellington, Arana, Balambal and Aberdeen. Brisbane Wests won their grand final last weekend, and in Queensland country, St George, Brothers in the Herbert River competition, and Bowen. And in Alice Springs, a Winter Centrals. Congratulations to all of those grand final winners. Well, last weekend in the Sydney Premiership, the two Steel Cities in the semis for the first time. I think it's fair to say both went in as underdogs, but Illawarra and Newcastle were very impressive in winning. On Sunday, Newcastle were clearly superior to the mighty Magpies. Let's review the highlights. 32 metres out. McCormack. Mullane. Pushes a couple off. Good fend, and he's still going.
Hey, Warren, he's not big, Mullane, but he's tough as a junkyard dog. He just keeps coming at them.
Hagan swings it out to Glanville. O'Davis pops a kick past Bell. O'Davis regathers. They won't touch him. Individual magnificence from Robbie O'Davis. What an individual effort it was. Just brilliant quick thinking.
That was one of the times where he did have a bit of time on his side, Warren.
Bit too much time to think. Willis under pressure. West have lost it, and the try has been scored. Miller, Glenn Miller, only on the field for a minute, has scored the softest of tries. Glanville runs into Thomas. Back inside to Gordon. Beautiful pass from Glanville. Gordon goes straight through. Racing for the line. Brad Gordon is over. Fair try. Referee checks with the in-goal judge, but it must be a try. It is. Brad Gordon finished it off, but put it all down to Mark Glanville. West on the ropes. Another field goal. Hagan right in front, and he's landed it. Hagan has landed the one-pointer. This should be decisive. Rodwell goes high. O'Davis coming through on Bell. O'Davis has got it, and O'Davis dives over for the try. What a tremendous player O'Davis has been in this game. From the outset, he has been a thorn in Mark Bell and West side. 19 points to 2. Newcastle walking away with it now. Schuster, 10 metres in from touch. No pressure on him, and he lands it with ease. Chipped it through nonchalantly, and Newcastle now streaking away, 21 points to 2. Well, Newcastle certainly running into stiffer opposition today, but after the Newcastle performance, do you think a similar looking performance again?
Yeah, well, last week they ran in against the side, West, who they scored 2 tries from kicks. They also scored a try from a drop pass. But today they're up against stiffer opposition, and even though St George haven't been playing well towards the last 5 or 10 minutes or so, but I think that they're still right under this game up to the neck.
Well, the other big game last week, of course, was Illawarra taking on St George. Let's have a look at those highlights. McNeil, the man with the ball. In at halfback, John Simon at 5'8" for Illawarra. Simon back there for the kick. Charged down by Collins. There's nobody in front of him. It's play on. It's a try to Collins. A charge down. Try to Wayne Collins. Charging through. Once he knocked it down, he was unopposed. Simon couldn't get the kick away in time. Collins racing through on him, and nobody at home. Tietzel to Pinchinelli. Loses the ball back. It's play on with Skiffaletti. He's got McIndoe outside and he went away from him. Now he looks for him and finds him. And McIndoe Rod Wishart with a 61% success rate right in front. Puts the Steelers in front 6-4. 10 minutes of play gone.
There's another penalty to the St George team for indiscretion in the play the ball.
Skiffoliti trying to rake it back, but the referee Annesley said the ball wasn't on the ground and that he hadn't faced up directly, and also was making contact with the St George man trying to play the ball. Ian Heron, after a late start to his first grade season, is the 10th highest point scorer in the competition. Hits this one sweetly, and the flags are up. Fine kick. Neil, Pinchinelli beating up quickly. Couldn't stop him. Now it's Rodwell. Rodwell spinning down a touchline. Oh, what a run! Did he get it down? The referee says no.
And what a tremendous hit by Peter Coyne. Watch Peter Coyne come across, dig the shoulder in, bang, a shoulder charge, and the ball pops out.
Walsh. Back to Neil. Poor pass, but Cross cleans it up. Rodwell breaks away from Orford. He's got McIndoe outside him. They won't catch. Goulet coming across at McIndoe. The try to Alan McIndoe. His second. The loose pass, creating something. But he hits it well. It's a beauty. Well, how do you explain it? Great kick from Rod Wishart. The half-time siren has already sounded. Will they try it again this time? Waddell, Neil, finds some space. McGregor cuts through. McGregor loose, power behind. Superb try by McGregor. Paul McGregor. Wishart missed one from right in front earlier. Not this time. And the Illawarra Steelers now look set for victory. 18 points to 6. Priddle gets a pass away to Heron. Riolo in front of him. He looks inside for Hardy. Goes away from Riolo. And Heron will score. Heron scores a try. So the game is not all over if this try can be converted. Chance went begging. They were setting themselves for the next tackle. Goulet, dummies inside. Priddle kicking ahead on the last tackle. Potter's got it. Walford now. Inside Riolo. Chased by Pinchinelli. It'll be a try to the Dragons. Mick Beattie scores. Amazing comeback. Unbelievable comeback by St George. We'll have to pull the nails out of the coffin. They were dead and buried. They're back in the game. It's on the wrong side for a round-the-corner style of kicker. He raises the flags. There's only 2 points in it. Izzard. The crowd counting down the last 6 seconds. And the roar goes up. A mighty game of football. Both teams tackling themselves to a standstill. But the Steelers have won 18 points to 16. So St George coming out much more fired up this week, other their intensity level much higher.
Yeah, they played well, especially the first 20 minutes. But once again, they've made the mistake of poor 5th tackle options. They've been caught in possession a number of times, and unless Brian Smith works on at half-time, gets that point across, they've got to pick up their options on the last tackle. They could get beat again here.
Another problem for St George is during the season they brought in Ian Heron as a goal kicker, which solved that problem, but during this final series he's not knocking them over. 1 from 3 so far in this match.
Well, that certainly is a problem. They could have been 4 points in front at the moment, but he's only kicked 1 from 3. But I just think that the more urgent problem for them is picking up their options on the 5th tackle.
How do you think the tactics of Brian Smith bringing in Goldthorpe and Hardy worked for them, particularly
well,
that first 20?
That worked early, but probably the incident that put Mark Coyne out of business has affected their side.
Now, Illawarra taking on Brisbane tomorrow. It's going to be a big ask of them, but everyone tipping Brisbane to win the grand final, I suppose. But how do you see it going?
Well, Brisbane have got the best players in the competition, but there are a lot of intangibles there, character, the bounce of the ball and things like that you can't cater for. And I will say one thing about Illawarra, they're loaded with character.
Loaded with character, and they certainly give it everything they've got. Now, one of the incidents we saw in that first half was that high tackle by Dave Barnhill. Let's have another look at it. Certainly was a controversial one. Maybe we'll hear more about it later in the week as Godden gives a great handoff, and then Barnhill just came in as if he had nothing else in mind but to take Godden's head off. From the other angle, it was very high, and I really don't know what Dave Barnhill would use in his defence there.
No, it certainly was a high tackle.
There's no real excuse that he could have been trying to take the ball. Michael Beattie leads the Dragons out. Mark Coyne on the right-hand side with his nose well and truly disjointed by that tackle. It could well have been broken. Certainly lost some blood, but he's going back out on the field. Ricky Walford also moving well despite some problems.
Yeah, towards the end of that half, Newcastle appeared as though they were getting on top. They got a little bit more possession, and that was brought about once again, as I keep saying, about some poor options on the last tackle.
And the Knights, who seemed to grow as the first half wore on. The crowd still just as enthusiastic about their chances. Robbie O'Davis has had a mixed match so far here. Michael Hagan has had a brilliant match. He's made 2 clean breaks, orchestrating the attack as usual.
With that extra possession by the Newcastle Knights, the front rowers came into their own. Paul Harrigan and Mark Sargent, they were both involved in 9 hit-ups each.
9 kicks in general play for St George, 12 for Newcastle in the first half. Mark Sargent put in a couple of powerhouse runs. Paul Harrigan, the Australian front rower, has the guard on his left leg, has been worried by that hamstring problem. The second half underway. The loser of this match is finished for the season. The winner meets the loser of the match between Brisbane and Illawarra. So they've got 40 minutes. It could be the end. Well, it will be the end for one. All or nothing from here. Tierney.
It's interesting to note that the big forwards are working off Noel Goldthorpe out wide.
Jeff Hardy with Barnhill. Wrapped up by Bronca. And Wayne Collins darts out of dummy half, finds a bit of space to Hardy. Drops it on the ground. Bronca's got it. Bronca could race away here. St George managed to converge on him with Goldthorpe. But poor football. Paul Harrigan. Well, John, what was said in the dressing rooms?
Well, Warren, not all that much. That doesn't concern the fact that it's a life and death out there. They've got 40 minutes left. A bit of mention of the 6 tackle options, but just play for it. You've got to go for it if you want to get there.
Glanville doing just that. 20 metres out. Rodwell goes wide to Hagan. Harrigan. Good tackle by Barnhill. He slammed him. That may have hurt Harrigan's back again. He's holding his head, but it looked to be a fair tackle.
It was a great tackle by Wayne Collins. Gets underneath. Just watch Wayne Collins. He comes in, and there's a high tackle by Barnhill.
Well, it was high. I thought it was a fair tackle, but it certainly clipped him across the chin. The second time Barnhill has gone high in this match. This one has hurt Harrigan. Barnhill living dangerously if he wants to play in a grand final. Harrigan back to his feet.
It's interesting to note that the replay isn't up on the television.
On the big screen at the stadium. Rodwell to the air on the last. Potter waiting and takes it magnificently. What a game Mick Potter's having. He's been tested out. Heron scrambles across field once more.
This is truly a great take as he's under pressure by Robbie O'Davis, goes up and contests it, but a tremendous take by Mick Potter.
Hardy taken by McCormack. Tierney. On the last tackle, St George have only made 30 metres. 2 passes wide to Coyne. He kicks. Godden takes it beautifully. Great positional play by Godden. And great speed now. Coyne scrambles across and comes in the second time. Could easily have been a penalty. McCormack is standing just one off the ruck as Herman plays it back. Goes to Mullane.
The top tacklers for both sides. Scott Gurley leading the way with the Mammoth 21. Just from Wayne Collins with 20 and Michael Hagan leading the way for Newcastle.
And
15.
Sargent goes through. Back on the inside is Herman. Herman for the line. He's just short. He reaches out. Referee says double movement. Double movement. Crucial call from referee Annesley.
And a quick decision by Graham Annesley.
The work was great on the inside from Hagan for Sargent. Then Herman bursting for the line. Well, was it his momentum, or do you reach out? He certainly made contact with the ball in the tackle.
The rule states that you can't reach out to improve your position once you hit the ground, and that's exactly what Tony Herman did.
I agree with the referee's decision. John, what's your call?
Yeah, I think it's a double movement. He's right on the spot. He's made 2 goes at it. But a faster winger probably would have got there, but a sensational pass by Mark Sargent.
Very cleverly constructed move by Newcastle. Put Sargent into the hole.
Yeah, well, he gave it. St George would have thought that Sargent was a decoy on that second phase play, but he got the ball. Here's Rex Turp in 44. He's gone on for Mick Beattie.
Well, we'll get a check on what's wrong with Mick Beattie. Surprised to see him leave the field. As Goldthorpe is trapped 8 metres short of halfway. The St George skipper off the field. Goulet. Priddle. Coyne kicks in behind Herman. Coming through is Walford. Well, St George have decided that Tony Herman, he may not be the weak link, but they don't see him as a danger. They're prepared to kick to him.
Now we see that kick once again down the right-hand side, but a little bit probably fortunate here because Ricky Walford was zooming down on that football.
And Michael Beattie putting a tracksuit on.
And Ricky Walford, aside from that very good chase, sensational tackle also on Herman. That saved the try.
Herman in from the blind. Schuster. 2 points all. 6 minutes into the second half. Glanville burrowing ahead. Harrigan. Only 30 metres out from their own line. St George with plenty of defence in close. Boyd plays it. Rodwell switches it to Godden. Goldthorpe gives chase. Walford. In 2 minds as to whether to step or to try and run around them. No way to go. Mark Coyne.
Great in and away by Mark Coyne.
Wouldn't take much to get the nose bleeding again.
And every indication this game was going to go to the wire, and it looks exactly that way, John.
Yep, there's St George going wide with Heron with the ball, but I think the team that values possession enough, Arthur, and also can complete their sets of 6 and kick well, will be well on the way to being at the right end of the field to win it.
Quick hands by St George. Mark Coyne's pass. Was it knocked down or was it a bad pass? Play on. No extra tackles.
And they're skinny up the right.
It goes to Peter Coyne. The long ball for Turk. His kick ahead. Back goes Herman. Walford on his tail. Can he keep him there? Herman pushes 1 off. Pushes 2 off. And gets back into the field of play. What a superb run.
It was a tremendous run by Ham. He was confronted by 3 players and just palmed them off 1 by 1.
Could have made all the difference. They would have had to drop out if he'd been pinned there.
Yep, that's a big play.
Oh, that could have been an is an interesting situation.
Well, Barnhill is so close to the wind all day.
But I think that he did catch an elbow from Brunker or a forearm.
Here's Brunker as Barnhill approaches. Well, it did look like a forearm that came up and Barnhill reacted to it. It's a wonder the touch judge from the far side had nothing to say. The referee would have only seen the reaction from Barnhill from that angle. So the penalty went to Newcastle. Sargent, straight ahead, like a locomotive out of control. Harrigan does the same. Covers the ball up tightly.
There's the error rate, and the worst statistic for St George is their 15 missed tackles. Obviously.
Now it's Boyd. Oh, he dropped it. McCormack was offside. He had to leave it alone. Riddle has it for the Dragons. That was a simple error by David Boyd. The pressure starting to tell, and the pace of the game. It's tough and fast. And as players get that a little bit tired, errors can creep into it. Coyne, the run around with Goldthorpe. Out it comes to Tierney. Back inside on Goldthorpe's gone without it. It was a beautiful pass from Tierney.
A little bit unlucky there, but the way to break up a compressed defence like Newcastle's is to do the runarounds.
10 metres short of halfway. Harrigan. Taken by Tierney and Priddle. His opposite numbers. Brad Mackay coming back to the touchline. Sargent. 3 men grappling with him. McCormack. 2 points all. 30 minutes in the match, still to go. Hagan.
Once again, a great clean-up work by Mick Potter.
Got his hands low, virtually rested him on the ground so he wouldn't knock on.
Oh, he's a perfectly positioned fullback.
He's the best positional fullback in the competition. In fact, in many, many decades. He just got great anticipation.
Barnhill leaving the field and Mackay on. I wonder whether Brian Smith is concerned that Dave Barnhill could end up in the bin, if not sent off, or whether he simply wants to get Brad Mackay on the field.
Well, I would think that he wants to get Brad on the field. With this game going right down the wire, I think that the interchange rule will play a big part.
The kick from Goldthorpe. Over the head of O'Davis. So they finally have kicked to O'Davis, but he doesn't get a hand on it. Good kick by Noel Goldthorpe. He's played his part in this game. Coming in for Ivan Henjak, he hasn't let St George down.
He certainly had a great game, and surprisingly, he does possess a very good kicking game. He's taken a lot of that responsibility off Peter Coyne.
Dave Barnhill on his way to the bench. Newcastle winning the scrums, but none against the feed. Brunker. Mackay around his ankles. Glenn Miller warming up. In fact, Glenn Miller on the field. And David Boyd leaves the field. He's been involved in everything.
Michael Beattie suffering from an ankle injury on the St George bench at the moment.
Miller quickly into the action. Taken by Collins. Both teams defending hard, trying to swarm up. Goulet putting pressure on Rodwell. The kick to Potter.
He doesn't have to move. That's how good his anticipation is.
Mark Coyne.
He's shown a bit of courage, Mark Coyne, John.
Yeah, he got
that hurt of his.
He got a bad one on the snout.
And there's blood pouring from Mark Coyne's face. Mark Sargent telling the referee he should be in the blood bin.
And he hasn't exactly got a small nose either, John. It's a bit of a target there.
Here's Tierney. The trainer on the field with Coyne. Chance for St George if they go wide here. Goldthorpe sees it. Priddle standing wide. Up he goes. Can't get the pass away, though. He went into them, and Schuster and O'Davis came in on him.
Yeah, but one of the centres had to go back in. Mark Coyne had to drift back inside.
Tierney. Walford, they go from one side of the field to the other. It's Hardy, I should say. Out now to Turp. Kicks ahead. Herman ran into him. Referee says play on and into touch.
It'll be interesting to see whether the touch judge comes in now. He called that a fair shot. We see Turp going down the right-hand flank there. And Herman didn't take any prisoners.
It probably was fair enough, though, to allow play on. St George will get the scrum feed, though, as Newcastle carry it over the line. The Dragons have got it, only 5 metres out. Critical time in the game here. Mullane hanging on in the tackle. Newcastle up quickly on Coyne. He goes back inside. Wants a quick play the ball. Glanville slowing him down. Goulet. 8 metres out. St George desperate. Again, they have numbers here. Tierney. Powers ahead. Heron staying on his wing. 5th tackle. They try to swing it wide. Can they get around them? Mark Coyne goes right over the top of Turp to Walford. The kick from Ricky Walford straight to Brad Godden. I think the long pass was the wrong option.
I'm a bit surprised that Ricky didn't put that ball along the ground, but
the long pass coming out to Ricky Walford just allowed the defence to go straight across to the wing.
Yeah, I agree with you, Warren. There was numbers there. Just transfer the ball and let the attackers chew up the defenders. There was overs there.
St George knew where they wanted to get the ball to, but Newcastle's sliding defence able to move across. Herman kicking on the last. He manages to kick away from Potter. Heron racing back. Now will Heron take them on? Goes straight at Schuster. Tries to hammer his way through, but Schuster hangs on with some help from O'Davis.
it's a good run by Ian Heron. We see the ball going back into Mick Potter. But they did well once again, Newcastle, to defend.
Mackay.
Now you can get numbers on Newcastle, but there's Matthew Elliott going on for Tierney, but you get numbers on them. A very competent defence.
This game lifting to a fever pitch. Mackay with Elliott. 3 metres in from touch on the 5th tackle. Goldthorpe to Coyne. He steadies, kicks high behind Herman. Walford racing through, couldn't take it. The block was there. Referee said he knocked it on. Well, Ricky Walford anticipated beautifully. He was on the burst. If he'd been able to take it, they couldn't have stopped him.
Yeah, this is a terrific catch, but I thought that Herman had him.
Well, Ricky Walford should have taken the pass or the bounce. He took his eye off it. He had his eye on Herman rather than the ball. Tried to pull it in one-handed. 2 points all. Neither side able to break through for a try. And those attempts at goal. Heron 1 from 3. Schuster 1 from 1. McCormack. Herman having a great game. Over the halfway. Harrigan. Maybe a field goal. If one side can get close to the post, isn't such a bad idea. Rodwell aims for the post, but with a punt, and spears it straight over the dead ball line.
Looked as though he was going for a one-pointer.
I think he was quite happy to thump it over the dead ball, the way he kicked it.
Yeah, it was a strange decision here by Rodwell. Is that ball there? I don't know what he was trying to do.
I thought he was trying to curl it over to his left, over to Walford's wing.
Well, you'd have to be a mind reader to know what he wanted to do with that ball.
Oh, kickers know, Arthur.
I would say.
St George, 30 metres out from their own line in centre field as play swings from one end of the field to the other.
We have a look, it's 2-2, but as far as the missed tackle goes, St George are well out in front.
Goldthorpe, St George standing wide, they try to run around. Goldthorpe throws a dummy, but well read by Glanville.
That's a great play ball.
Mackay, Priddle, Mark Coyne to Heron. Across comes Rodwell and a great tackle. Heron spills it. Fine tackle by Matthew Rodwell in cover.
Yeah, Priddle just carrying on a little bit there with Brad Godden as we see the ball quickly transferred. Some tremendous play by the inside backs there. We see Heron just trying to get that ball out into his left hand as he's hit by Rodwell. He drops it. Great cover defence shown by Rodwell.
22 minutes to go in the match. Both teams playing as if their lives depend on it, and why not? They do. Miller. We don't get many opportunities to play in grand finals. These two teams have that opportunity. Rodwell. The dummy goes through with Glanville inside. Beautiful work by Rodwell and Glanville. Rodwell grabbing at his ankle. Hagan straightens it up. Twists back for Godden. Finds some space. Elliott a crossing tackle, though.
It's a good example of that second phase play.
Now Hagan drives Heron back. This is a good kick. Heron will have to hurry. O'Davis is there. Heron does well.
Gee, carries that ball very loosely.
That one-handed swinging out away from his body looked like it would be very easy to dislodge. Heron slowing it down. He's not hurt. Mark Coyne. He also has the ball up high on the shoulder. Turp. Walford. Down on the quarter line. Hardy. Gets away from Brunker, but not Harrigan. They've used up 5. Peter Coyne under pressure. McCormack and Mullane getting through quickly. O'Davis goes back.
That was a great bounce for St George. Herman had a little bit of room.
Oh, a good pass as it turned out. Took the odds to it. Mullane, I should say Glanville. Godden. Harrigan. Mackay clinging to an ankle. With the tackle from Hardy all over Sargent, who wants to play quickly, and he glares at the referee.
Well, I think they're entitled to go on with the tackle.
St George creeping up in front of the referee. Miller. On the 5th tackle now. Hagan. Goes back to Rodwell. He kicks high. Potter waiting, unchallenged. Makes no mistake. But Schuster there to sweep over the top of Rodwell underneath. It's good, steady football by Newcastle.
They're just grinding them down at the moment, aren't they, John? They just seem to be as though they're playing a game of forcey bag.
Well, a real dogfight, Arthur. It's just going to be a fight to the finish.
That's all.
Look after possession and work your 6 out, get your kicks in, and good chase going. But you've got to get down the right end of the field.
Yeah, it appears as though St George, they're being pegged down in their own territory at the moment, and it almost looks as though Newcastle are starting to win the arm wrestle.
Well, they're chasing a lot better, and they're putting pressure on St George's kickers. It's a kicking game in the first half from St George. They had a little bit of time on their hands. They haven't this half. A bit more urgency there.
Yeah,
Potter forced to kick that time to Godden.
yeah, tremendous tackle there by Brad Mackay.
O'Davis.
This could be the man who could be the game breaker, Robbie O'Davis.
David Mullane.
Robbie McCormack's had a wonderful game there at dummy half. He's causing a few problems when he scoots out.
Rodwell goes to the line. Dummies over to Shepherd. Shepherd behind Miller. Rodwell departed from the set move that time. He thought he could see the little opening. He knew that he was intending to pass to Miller, I think it was, but instead decided to have a go at the gap himself.
And that was the break that St George needed.
David Waite on the 2-way, yelling instructions. This has been a gripping game. A truly worthy grand final. Who cares if there haven't been any tries scored? This is great stuff. Goldthorpe, Coyne, He's lost the ball. The referee says it was ripped out.
It's a tough decision here for the captain.
Well, the tacklers were Hagan and McCormack. Who pulled it out?
I'm just wondering who will the captain be? Who will make this decision?
McCormack comes in, and he was gripping at the ball as hard as Mackay was, and it flicked out.
Yeah, Robbie McCormack, man there, but maybe we might see them set up for that 1 pointer that John Peard was talking about.
Well, Ian Herron hasn't had the greatest day with the boot, so they're going for the try. It was a long way out as well. Priddle thunders for the line. Still going, Tony Priddle. So far, Harrigan and Sargent have outshot him. Collins dives. He's half a metre short.
What chance Elliott going for it?
They might try and work that move that they often put in from close range. Goulet, 8 out. Goldthorpe. The run around with Coyne. Out it goes to Hardy. Turp started to come infield.
Good work by Bunker. He covered Hardy, then he went to Turp.
Mark Coyne. Darts ahead.
Why did Turp come back inside, John?
Yeah, should have been better off doing that. 5th tackle.
Last tackle, Hardy puts it into the in-goal area. Herman goes back, and he can't do anything about it this time, Tony Herman. Trundles over the dead ball line.
Yeah, but a great 5th tackle option. They put the ball in the in-goal area. A well-weighted kick here by Jeff Hardy. And Herman forced to take that ball over the dead ball line.
Plenty of men on the bench for Newcastle. They've got 10 reserves. Rodwell with a dropout. Jeff Hardy brings it back.
Strange enough, John, they're not interested in the 1-pointer at the moment.
No, not at this stage. I think Saints haven't been down there for a while. Maybe they'll think about it if they get down there this time after, because it's very difficult to get round that Newcastle defence.
It's taken them all day to realise it.
Collins goes up the middle. They're only 15 metres out this time. Psychologically, the 1 point could break this game. Quick passing to Mackay.
That was almost a Shepherd.
Goldthorpe pulls it in well. Cuts through. But slammed to ground. Harrigan over the top. McCormack underneath. Great defence. 5th tackle. This is the kick. Peter Coyne goes for drop goal from close at hand, and it's there. There's the 1-pointer that puts St George in front. It's by no means a match winner, but it really does give the psychological upper hand to St George now.
Great evasive work by Peter Coyne. There's McCormack comes in on him, but that ball just zeroing over for 1 point.
Peter Coyne, who's going to England to play with Castleford. That's brought the St George fans alive. John Schuster. But no one will be counting this Newcastle side out. Down by 1 point. They've shown that they are a true competitor in this final series. There are 14 minutes remaining in the game. Brad Mackay stopped hard by Mullane. Priddle. St George won't want to make any mistakes. If they can play it down the other end of the field, Newcastle can't reply with a field goal. Priddle stumbles to halfway. Peter Coyne knows that he wants to get it down the other end. That's a good kick. Godden hurrying back. The chase from St George is there.
It's a very good set of 6, and they pick him up and drive him back. But a very good chase by the St George players.
Jeff Hardy and Rex Turp are the tacklers. Herman. And talking about the psychological value of things, a tackle like that can really lift a side. Glenn Miller tears in there for the Newcastle side. Harrigan, the chief, but he meets his match in Elliott and Priddle. Sargent has stopped. Newcastle not getting over the advantage line as St George move up quickly. Rodwell under pressure from Mackay, gets a good kick away, but it's straight to Potter. though the height allows the chasers to get down there. Potter runs well, gets it to Heron. Comes back into O'Davis. I don't know why he came back inside. Mark Coyne pushes away from O'Davis. Goldthorpe calling them forward. Hardy ducks under Miller. 3 points to 2 in favour of St George.
And there we see that both sides have had to do a lot of defence.
Collins. St George was happy to take it forward. Now the kick. They'll try and place it into the in-goal area, you would think. Coyne kicks for the posts. The awkward bounce. O'Davis. Great work by O'Davis. He committed himself to that ball. No matter that there were players charging through, the uprights were in front of him. The bounce was going to be difficult. Tremendous football.
We have a look at a beautifully placed kick. We see Nolly Goldthorpe coming through there. And it's Michael Potter who makes the tackle on O'Davis.
Geez, a confident footballer, Robbie O'Davis. Mullane. St George inside the 5, and Goldthorpe puts his hands on his head. And says, we don't need that.
With 10 minutes to go, this is a relieving kick for the Newcastle camp.
It's a double-prong kicking of the St George side. Here's the injury.
Against Brad Mackay going too high. Harrigan, time in possession. St George leading by 6 minutes. So they've dominated the second half, St George, in terms of ball possession.
John, they might have to go for the decider, try and, not the decider, the equaliser. Work in.
Yeah, they're going to get down there first, Arthur, in that quarter. But I think St George's biggest asset today has been the two-prong kicking game. From Goldthorpe, he's been an asset, and of course Peter Coyne.
In centre field now, Hagan gets it to Glanville. Works it back inside to Hagan. Can't break through. 25 metres out. Still a couple of tackles to go. McCormack getting it away to Miller. Now they're inside the quarter. They should go for the one-pointer. It's the 5th tackle. Back it goes to Rodwell. They're going to run it instead. Out it comes to Godden. With Schuster now. Schuster spinning out of tackles. Throws it out the back and Potter's got it.
Yeah, great scrambling defence by St George. They had the numbers there, but they couldn't execute the move, couldn't get the ball across the line.
St George foxing. Mick Potter is down. And the referee will tell someone else to play it. We've seen a number of times St George players coming up with the ball close to their line, taking a dive. Maybe 1 or 2 of them have been injured, but I don't think that you could say all of them have been. There's Potter back to his feet.
John, they had the numbers on that occasion. The alarm bells were ringing.
Yeah, beautifully worked play on the last tackle. Rodwell, the instigator again.
Gee, he's got a short 5 to what you can see other referees give. Annesley.
Well, you've got to give Newcastle credit. They went for the try there. They went for the win. They decided not to go for the equaliser. Personally, I would have taken the one-pointer because there was no pressure on either Rodwell or Hagan. Now the kick away from Godden.
I agree with you, Warren.
Here's O'Davis. Good tackle by Goldthorpe. Taking over where Ivan Henjak left off last week in defence. Oh! Herman's made the mistake. He's played so well in this second half, and Tony Herman now makes a terrible error. Herman just simply put it down. And he must feel lonely as he goes back out to the wing. St George now, only 15 metres out with the scrum feed. And the referee says he wants it somewhere near the middle. Thank you, Noel. Goldthorpe makes more of a show of it this time. Mark Coyne. Taken by Brunker. They've had a good battle, these two. Walford. 3 points to 2 in favour of St George. 8 minutes to go. Mackay. Still, neither side has been broken for a try. Elliott. Goldthorpe, a dummy half. Dummies. Fifth tackle now. They're only 13 out. Peter Coyne wants it. He's got men outside. Runs it inside to Hardy. Hardy goes through. He's close. Oh, just inches in it. The in-goal judge racing up to keep an eye on it as well. That's a handover.
What a great tackle by Godden. That was a tremendous save.
Well, they can thank Brad Godden if they get out of this, because Hardy so close and not far from the posts. Brad Hardy, a tremendous burst on the inside pass, reaching out, but he was short.
Good play by Coyne. Coyne held the ball up and as if to kick, and then played the inside pass.
Sargent bullocking his way upfield.
They never say die in this Newcastle mob, John.
Tony Smith on for St George, and Peter Coyne off for the Dragons. St George like to use Tony Smith to lock up a win, slow the game down, play it steadily. Rodwell kicks to Potter. Yet again, Nick Potter takes it on the full. Oh, Ricky slipped over. Luckily, the ball landed in his belly. That could have been a horror moment.
These last 6 minutes will be heart-attack stuff for the coaches, John.
Yeah, they're sitting on the edge of their seats. They've probably aged a few years just in this last, 74 minutes.
And Mark Coyne, I don't know whether he's got blood or red mercurochrome all over his face, but his face is just one mass of red. If it's blood, he's lucky to be on the field. It's a great kick. Drives Godden back. Heron there in chase. St George driving Newcastle back. There's one or two nails in the coffin now.
Yes, since they've kicked that field goal, they've come up another gear.
Only 1 point in it. St George clinging to a 3 points to 2 lead. 5 minutes, 15 seconds remaining. Harrigan and Sargent. Harrigan with 17 hit-ups. Sargent with 14. And add one more for Harrigan. Hagan to Sargent. The two big men trying to get their team out of this tight squeeze. They've got the noose around their neck. They haven't given up yet. Rodwell. Kicking down to Heron. The defence is there with O'Davis. And Heron overplaying his hand a little here. Referee Annesley must be sorely tempted to penalise them.
The St George players taking their time getting back into position. Tony Priddle still walking back onside.
Rickstone out of the tackle. Rodwell got him. He was tempted to pass it off the ground. Now Jeff Hardy. Matthew Elliott. Slips a pass away to Potter. I don't know whether it was worth the risk. 4 minutes to go. Potter puts the kick ahead on the last and went straight to Godden. And Godden bursts away. There's no fullback. Oh, it goes to Schuster. Oh, Newcastle thrusting themselves through the line. Potter's still not at home. He's way offside, Mick Potter there.
And that's a great lock-up by Brad Mackay.
Mullane leaving the field for Newcastle. And the penalty goes to the Knights against St George, hanging on in the tackle. And Brad Mackay in the sin bin for 10 minutes.
Matthew Elliott, Warren.
Matthew Elliott,
sorry. Mackay. Elliott was the last one in, and he held on over the top.
John, they've got to work in for the field goal, surely.
Yeah, well, they got the ammunition, they got the tanks up front, they just got to knock it forward, give it a reasonable possession.
Elliott off the field for the last 3 minutes of this match, and if there's extra time, he'll miss the first 7 of the extra. Here's O'Davis. They're 20 metres out now. Will they go for the 1 or do they want 6? Miller heads for the posts. They probably won't wait till the last if they're going for one. Rodwell. Hagan cuts back inside with Brunker. Herman now. Ran behind Harrigan, but he didn't impede the tacklers. Herman taken. 14 metres out. Schuster. 9 metres out. St George hanging on here. The fifth tackle. In centre field, Hagan keeps it going. They work it wide. Brunker, one-on-one with Welford.
Oh, great defence. Great defence.
And that's Matthew Johns wearing 20 on for Newcastle. Ricky Walford, one-on-one with Brunker.
And this was a tackle that had to be made. Tremendous cover defence as the ball was passed back inside. It was interesting to note whether Mark Coyne touched that ball.
So St George only 10 metres out from their own line, but they have possession.
And they're still going to have to do another set of 6 of defence.
1 minute 35 to go. Well, Newcastle didn't go for the one-pointer.
They've still got time if they can put pressure. And rightly so, they're questioning St George's tactics.
The referee calls time off. Well, this is reminiscent of...
Don't say Balmain.
Balmain in 69. St George taking dives in their own quarter. 3-2 to the Dragons. Just over a minute to go.
And here's the penalty to St George. As Paul Harrigan pulls the ball, is it Mark Sargent? Paul Harrigan pulled the ball out of Brad Mackay's hands.
Well, as you said, all they had to do was wait for St George to kick and then try and get back in.
Well, I'm
Here's
surprised.
Harrigan.
Why would you take the tap? You had to find the line.
Well, they might think they can play it out here. They've got 50 seconds to go.
Yeah, the kick
They made
would
a
have chewed
mistake.
up. The kick would have chewed up another 15 or 20.
It's a blood bid for Mark Coyne. It's been coming for a while. Look at him. His jersey's ripped, his face is mangled, and he's had a tremendous game. Tierney comes on. 6 metres short of halfway. St George simply need to hold the ball.
Well, that's great work by Mick Potter once again. He's been man of the match for mine.
And I guess Newcastle will look at the video of the double movement called on Tony Merman. That was as close as anyone has got to scoring a try. St George have found touch. They'll count down the clock now. Mick Beattie, yes, you can smile. It's all over for Newcastle. The valiant Newcastle Knights have been defeated. There's been nothing in this game. You couldn't say that St George have been the better team. There's been nothing in it. 2-2 would have been a fair score. 3-3 would have been a fair score. But St George have won by 3 points to 2. Neither side could score a try. What a game.
So, from the Sydney Football Stadium, the St George Dragons register the win and secure themselves a spot in the preliminary final next week against either Brisbane or Illawarra, whilst the Newcastle Knights bow out of the 1992 Premiership race.
Well, we don't have to look at the try scorers, but goal kicking. Heron 1 from 3 and Peter Coyne a field goal. Schuster 1 from 1. St George winning by a point. Let's go down to Johnny Peart.
Well, Mick, how tough was it? Very hard going, that one. There was no try scored, but a few breaks made, but it was a game in the forwards, and we come out on top with the points, but it was neck and neck, I think, as far as the forward battle goes.
Yeah, well, seemed to be a different team to last week. There was a lot more enthusiasm.
Yeah, I think that's the key, mate. I think it was the enthusiasm and a bit of attitude, and we had it out there, and that's what's got us home in the end.
Yeah, and you moved the ball wide too, right from the start.
Yeah, we wanted to move their big forwards occasionally, and we did that with some success. Sometimes it didn't work out too well, but we come up with the result.
Well, I think the stumbling block for them was your positional play, Mick. It was tremendous. You anticipated the kicks.
Well, I got to hand it out to the forwards that they put pressure on the kick and made my job a little bit easier. So I'm happy they did that for me.
You got another big game next week. Good on you, Mick.
That's right. Thanks, Johnny.
Well, they certainly have. St George will play the loser of the match between Brisbane and Illawarra. St George, the only Sydney team left in the competition, playing for the millions of people who live in Sydney, hoping to stave off the challenge from the infidels up north and down south. And those St George fans with plenty to cheer about and a very exciting finish. And let's go down to Scott Goulet.
Well, Scott, how did you see it? From the forwards, I just spoke to Mick Potter. How was it up front?
It was pretty tough in there. We were seen to, first off, get in the back foot a bit. We were going backwards. I think we got up and hit him a bit better in the second half there.
Were you surprised when it was 3-2 that Newcastle didn't attempt a field goal down there in the last few minutes?
I was hoping they wouldn't, because I don't know if I would have lasted another 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. Congratulations. You played a bit wider today. Was that a plan?
Yeah, he wanted me to get out a bit wide, and because they're condensed defence and such, that's where he wanted me, so that's where I went.
Well, you're back next week. Good luck.
Thanks a lot, John.
And there's a pretty happy Dragon supporter, Mackay Magic. St George finishing the game with 12 men with Elliott in the sin bin. And if they had gone for the one-pointer, well, an extra 20 minutes, they would have had 13 against 12 for a while anyway.
Well, I'm surprised at Newcastle's tactics. They gambled and they lost. They should have evened it up.
Well, for Newcastle, sheer dejection. Here's Michael Hagan.
Had a couple of opportunities.
Well, Mick, 3-2, disappointing, but you'd be pretty proud of the effort.
Mate, very pleased with the effort. I thought our blokes played extremely well. Full credit to St George. They were certainly better on the day.
I think their kicking game matched yours.
Yeah, probably their kicking game and their pressure was very good and made it very hard for us coming out of our own quarter, especially late in the second half.
No thoughts with a few minutes to go for a field goal?
Yeah, mate, I suppose a little bit of composure and obviously we got another crack at him in the last set and we come up with a penalty and we didn't get another shot at it, so yeah, possibly might have been a better option.
Oh, well, congratulations on a fine year to the Knights.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, we've had a good year and we'll be there again next year, no doubt.
Thanks, Mick.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, I could only echo that. Newcastle have had a tremendous season and their supporters deserve, well, just sheer congratulations for the support they've given to this Newcastle side. But the kicking game in the first half by St George was disappointing. It was far better in the second half and turned the tables on Newcastle. I don't know how other managers to pick his best sometimes. It's going to be tough today. Let's find out who's Beatson's best. Michael Potter at the back for St George. He had a perfect game. He, not for a moment, looked like breaking.
Yeah, his positional play was tremendous, wasn't it? His running of the football was great. His returning of the downtown. What more can you say about Mick Potter? He's had a tremendous season, and I would think that he'd be on the plane as the fullback for Australia in the World Cup game.
Certainly deserves to be. Brian Smith made 2 changes for this game. One of them was Noel Goldthorpe.
Well, great game. How'd you see it from your position?
Well, it was pretty tough for where I was sitting, but you know, we just hung in there, and finally we come out with a 1-point victory. It was good. It was great.
Yeah, I said to previously the guys, the enthusiasm was up today compared to last week.
Well, we knew it was do or die, so we just come out and did our best, and on the day it's come out to be a winner.
What about kicking game? 2-pronged kicking game with you and Peter Coyne.
Yeah, well, it's good. You know, it gives us an option either side. They put a bit of pressure on Peter, can jump in and bang a couple in. Just helps the team out, I think.
And I thought the forwards worked very well off you. Yeah, you're a pivot on a lot of occasions and got the bigger blokes running.
Yeah, well, it's suicide to take them on up the guts, you know, and we tried to move our forwards a bit wide and get them running out a bit wider, and it worked for us today.
Congratulations, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Johnny. Thanks.
Yes, they'll be back next week, courtesy of a 1-point win, and it all came from the boot of Peter Coyne, that vital field goal. St George were getting the upper hand. They were starting to spend more time in Newcastle territory, but cool and calm. Good evasive work by Peter Coyne to step around the chasers getting through on him, and he potted it from right in front, and, well, what a valuable decision to go for it.
Well, right, it was about 15 minutes to go when Coyne kicked that field goal, but by the same token, they really did pick themselves just after that. They had the impetus, and they carried on with it.
Newcastle got over the line once, but the referee said it was a double movement. Let's have a look at it. A big run from Mark Sargent. He turns it inside to Tony Herman. Now Herman pulled down here by Ricky Walford. Was his momentum stopped, or did his momentum carry him over the line? I know what everyone in Newcastle would think, but he certainly was grounded with the tackler still wrapped around his legs.
A little bit unfortunate for Herman there. The temptation was there. He did make an attempt to improve his position, and that's exactly what the rule stipulates, and the referee ruled a right decision.
Now let's go down now to another St George player, another hero, Neil Tierney.
Well, Neil, they don't come much tougher than that.
It's very hard, very hard. I suppose semi-finals all like that, Johnny.
What about the playing the game a little bit wider with the forwards? That obviously was a good ploy, but how did you feel about that?
Probably didn't see as much of the ball as I'd like. You know, but it was something we worked on, not to play their strength, which obviously is in the middle, but you know, we had to change it a bit at half-time because I just wasn't seeing the ball, and I need more ball. The more ball I get, the better I play.
Well, you'll get some next week. Who do you think you'll be playing?
Mate, I don't know. I'd be surprised if Illawarra beat Brisbane, but it'll be a close one, I reckon.
Well, good luck.
Thanks, Johnny.
Yes, tomorrow it's Brisbane versus Illawarra. Brisbane, the favourites for the premiership. Let's have a look at the Brisbane lineup. What a classy side it is. Look at the backline power there. O'Neill, Hancock, Renoff, Johns, Willie Kahn, Kevin Walters, Alan Langer, and the forwards. Not dwarfed by anyone either, with Lazarus, Kerrod Walters, Gavin Allen, Gilman.